I turned 18 this year, in May, the month that I graduated high school. By coincidence, the majority of my friends turned 18 about that time. All throughout high school, we had celebrated birthday month, a time where one of our birthdays happened to fall on each of the weekends. When we turned 16, we each bought packs of cigarettes. At 17, we watched every R-rated movie in theaters, 2 times each. And at 18, we decided we would each be getting tattoos. But I had a problem. Of my 3 friends, I was the poorest. My parents had kicked me out a few months before when they found the vodka in my closet, and I could just barely afford to pay rent with the waiter job I had picked up on nights and weekends. I'd managed to graduate high school with low marks, but I had graduated, which mattered to me, though I knew I wouldn't be heading to college. And now, my 3 other friends were leaving to start their futures. I think I'm going to get a benzene ring, said Lily, the nerdy but cute Asian girl who hung out with us and probably had more potential than all of us together. Behind my right ear. That way, my parents won't see it under my hair. We were sitting in the back of Brent's truck in the school parking lot, watching as the rest of the school let out. Brent was my best friend at the time, though he was planning on attending school 3 states away. "Aw, that'd be so cute," said Mary, clinging to Lily's shoulder. "And I think I'll get a Bible verse right here, something about purity." She gestured to her ribcage, and Brent snorted. The previous year, his relationship with Mary had come to an end when she cheated on him with 2 other guys. They'd made up, and she'd cleaned up her act, but her reputation remained. "And I'll get a globe," Brent said. "Maybe on my chest. I want to travel, you know. Figure I'll do some sort of study abroad program at uni. What about you, Copy?" I'm not sure yet," I answered, staring at the pavement below. I considered asking them for money, but my face turned red at the thought. And I already owed Brent a few $100 that he had pretended to forget about. I think I'll have to think on it. "We'll decide quick," said Mary. "We're going next Friday." By my estimations, I'd be able to save up at least $200 by then, but it'd be tough. I'd be eating ramen for sure, and picking up some extra shifts serving tables. It would be worth it though. After all, I wouldn't be seeing them for quite some time. But that night when I went into work, my name wasn't on the schedule for next week. In fact, no names were on the schedule. Burnett's Bistro had recently experienced some competition from an Applebee's that opened across the street, and Burnett's Bistro was now shut down. So, I was officially broke. By the time Friday came, I had applications in for several new server jobs, though none had answered yet. So I skipped lunch and went to the parlor that afternoon and spoke with the artist.
"What can I do to help?"
he asked when I entered the empty shop, his eyes narrowing. I looked young for my age, and I was just barely old enough to enter the shop alone. "I just turned 18 and want a tattoo. I was wondering, though, I'm a little short on cash. Can I pay you later?" The artist snorted, crossing thick arms across his chest.
"No cash, no art. Read the sign, boy. I'm not working for free."
"Don't you think we could work something out? It doesn't have to be anything big or nice. Come on, man. Please?"
"Out. And come back when you have cash, or don't come back at all."
"Damn it," I said as the door shut behind me and kicked the fire hydrant outside the shop, sending pain up through my toe. "Bit of an ass, isn't he?" came a voice from behind, and I turned, seeing a man standing on the sidewalk and leaning against the building, a binder under his arm. "Yeah, I muttered, starting to walk away. But his next words stopped me. You know, I'm trying to open my own shop, and I've got pictures of my own art that you can look at. It's a bit different. So I'm looking for someone to try it out on. Maybe advertise it a bit for me, show it off a bit, and I'll do it for free. Free? I repeated, raising an eyebrow. Free. Let's see those pictures. He handed me the binder and I opened it, viewing them. There were 10 or so, and they were good. Hell, they were great. The type of art that I should be paying heavily for. Thoughts? He said, waiting. I'm in, I answered. But what's the catch? I just want my talent to come to life, he said with a smile. It's hard to get started in the industry. So, tonight then? You can meet me here. Deal, I answered. And that night I returned with my friends. Aren't you coming in, Kopi? Said Brent, holding the door to the shop. I got my own guy. Scheduled some personal art, you know. I'll meet you guys after. Sure, man, said Brent. But we were supposed to do this together. Already I could hear the voices of Lily and Mary from inside as they started talking to the artist, and I withdrew slightly so that I wouldn't be visible through the window. Trust me, man, it'll be cool. I want to surprise you guys. Whatever you say, answered Brent, and walked inside, holding a sketch of the globe that he wanted for his own tattoo. I waited outside, and a few moments later, the man from earlier appeared, touching my shoulder from behind. Ready? He said, and I nodded, following him down the street. Night had begun to fall, and his shadow melded with the dark as he tucked into a side alley and led me down some stairs. And there, we came to a door, with a fresh sign over the door, and he led me inside. You'll have to excuse me, he said. I haven't had much time to set up shop. Apparently, I answered, looking about the room. There was a chair, some equipment, and 3 hanging light bulbs, but little else. A few boxes in the back, still packed and resting on concrete soaked with water leaking through the foundation, and a ceiling tile was cracked next to them, where it had fallen to the floor. Go ahead, take a seat, the man said, and I hesitated. Then I swallowed and took the chair. It was free, and I couldn't complain about free. And I didn't want to be the only one of my friends without a tattoo. All right, this'll take a bit. I'll need you to stay still, he said. How does your lower shoulder blade work? I have a design in mind, if you will. Something special. That works, I said, and removed my shirt. And he began, the buzzing filling my ears as I gritted my teeth. When he finished, he held up a mirror for me, and I looked at the work. Damn, I was happy. And damn, did it look good. It was a design of sorts, a looping that turned in upon itself with strands that lay unfinished as the tattoo fell away. In case you ever want to expand it, he said, pointing to them. Free of charge, since you're my first customer, and I think you'll find they're quite addictive. Then he led me back to the surface and to the original shop, where Brent was already waiting outside. Thanks, I said, turning, but the man was already walking away in the direction of his shop, his form already a shadow in the night. Brent lifted his shirt when I approached, showing me the patch covering his own tattoo, though I could see the globe through it. Came out sweet, man. Better than I thought. Then Mary and Lily came out of the shop, each with their own patches. I hear you've got a surprise for us, Kopi, said Lily. Go on, let's see it. So I turned and lifted my own shirt. For a second, I heard silence and held my breath. Then Brent spoke, his voice drawn out. Shit, man, how much did you pay for that? You know you still owe me over $100, right? I laughed and turned to see their eyes wide and eyebrows raised. Mary's mouth was open and Brent shook his head. We walked home together and I woke up the next morning. The tattoo was sore. Not just in the area applied, but above it too. And when I looked in the mirror, it was just a tad higher than I remembered. But that was months ago, and now my friends are gone. I work at the Applebee's that shut down Burnett's Bistro as a bartender full-time now for lunch and dinner shifts. And I eat there all the time, considering the hefty discount. Sometimes having 3 or 4 meals throughout the day. It's not a health problem yet, though, since I'm losing weight, not gaining it. Must be all the extra work I'm doing. I've gotten a few new tattoos since my friends left, all connected with my first one. The problem with having a lazy manager is I walk home drunk, sometimes even blackout, with the entire last hour of my shift a blur. And my tattoo artist was right. Tattoos are addictive. During those nights, I must have stumbled back into his parlor and had more done. I can't remember, but I'd know when I woke up with sore skin. They were still free, though, since I never lost any cash, so I saw no problem with it. Plus, the new tattoos were just as impressive as the first, and it even touched up the first one a bit, made the lines a bit darker, more pronounced. But it became a problem once my entire back was covered, and the ink started spreading to my arms. The other tattoos were of a wide variety of styles, too. Some colored, some not, some pictures, and some designs. All expertly drawn, but it was getting to be too much. "Damn it," I said one morning, glancing at my bicep. It stung, and there was a copy of my original tattoo, the swirls and lines staring back up at me. So I left home and I walked to the parlor. Even though it was months before, I still knew the way. But no one answered when I knocked on the door, so I entered and looked around the inside. It was empty. The chair was gone, along with the equipment. The hanging light bulbs were removed, a few additional ceiling tiles had fallen through, and a layer of dust coated the floor. I stood there, frowning and looking for signs of life when there were none. But on the floor, there was still the mirror from my first visit, so I picked it up and inspected my back to see if there was anything new. I choked, and shivers ran down my spine when I looked into the glass. For my original tattoo had not been copied on my back. It had been moved there. That night, I did what I did whenever I was stressed. I ate to curb my hunger, and I drank to nurture my alcoholism. Heavily. The next day I woke up to a stinging sensation and cursed. There, on my left bicep, was a picture of a swastika, connected by thin lines to the tattoo network of my back. I called in sick that day, and I turned on the television. I shook on my couch and couldn't focus as I flipped through the channels. I considered calling my parents, but they'd think I was just trying to get money. And I considered calling my friends, but they'd think I was going crazy. So I settled on the news, something I almost never watched. And I learned about the incident the night before. "The scene before you has been blurred out," said the blonde reporter, standing in front of a gas station, "due to its graphic nature. Experts are still trying to discern what occurred here last night, though it is currently being attributed to some sort of wild animal yet to be identified. The victim's body is covered in lacerations, as if caused by wires of some sort, the wounds culminating above his chest where the skin was ripped clear, and here is the footage." The screen flickered, and I saw the inside of the gas station. The man at the counter tapping his fingers as he waited for customers. The frame rate was low and the screen jumpy and somewhat out of focus, but the door opened and a dark shape entered. It crawled along the ground, propelling itself forward with a single stump-like arm attached to a greater mass of black, similar in shape to a man's torso. The attendant pulled a gun from under the counter and began firing, bullets gouging into the floor, but the dark shape leapt onto him, swirls of black shredding his shirt in seconds. Then the camera blurred out, censored by the news team. But not before I saw what had been on the man's chest. A tattoo of a swastika. I shut off the television, staring at the tattoo on my arm. My muscles spasmed slightly, and it twitched, making me jump backwards. In my panic, I began to drink, downing a fifth of whiskey before I could think it through. But before I passed out, I remember doing one thing. I set the camera of my laptop so it could view my bed, and I pressed record. Then I took 4 more shots, until I couldn't remember slipping away. And today, I watched the footage, watched as the dark swirls of ink peeled from my skin and twisting away until they formed an imitation shaped like my own body. Watched as it limped from the room, now a torso with 2 stubby arms, the collection of pictures and designs moving together in a single mass. It returned with the light of dawn, holding a flap of skin with a tattoo on it up to the camera on my laptop so I could see the picture. And then it pushed the skin onto my bare chest until they meshed together, and I had a new tattoo. A tattoo of a globe. One that I knew too well. A warning. And I wonder what would happen when all my skin is covered by ink, and the template is complete.